Hello and good evening. You're watching Eye on Africa on France 24. Here are the headlines on the continent this Wednesday. Zimbabwe becomes the first country in Africa to improve an injectable drug to prevent HIV transmission. Authorities say it will provide vital protection for at-risk groups, including teenage girls. We look at the financial hardship facing women with breast cancer in Togo. Treatment falls outside the public healthcare system and many cannot afford to pay privately. And also coming up in the programme, we have an extract of an award-winning documentary by France 24's Clement Roma. It looks at Russia's growing influence in the Central African Republic. Thanks for joining us. Our top story tonight. Zimbabwe has become the first country in Africa to approve a long-acting injectable drug that prevents HIV transmission. Studies show the drug reduces HIV risk by nearly 80% compared with oral medication. Now, about 11% of Zimbabwe's adult population is thought to be HIV positive, but the drug is also expected to be greenlit for teenagers who are among the most at risk of infection. Our correspondent in the region, Nadine Theron, has more.
A new type of injectable antiretroviral medicine will soon be available to Zimbabweans before citizens from any other African country. On Monday, Zimbabwe announced it has approved the use of a long-acting injectable called Ebola, and this prevents the human immunodeficiency virus, or HIV, from multiplying in a person's body. The injections are administered every 2 months and to prevent infection, and it's 90% effective. The drug was approved for use in the United States a year ago, but Zimbabwe's got an expanding mining sector, and that might actually increase the country's already high HIV prevalence rate. Currently, it's the 5th highest in the world. That's because communities around open mines and local populations are twice as likely to become HIV positive in sub-Saharan Africa as before a mine opened in their area.
Nadine Theron for us there. Now, this Wednesday is International Breast Cancer Awareness Day, and in this programme we're shining a light on women with the disease in Togo. The West African country is in the midst of trying to modernise its public healthcare system, but currently much cancer care is not covered. And many women say they cannot afford their breast cancer treatment in the private sector. Our reporters in Lomé have the story.
This 60-year-old woman lives in Lomé, the capital of Togo, and day by day she's getting weaker due to breast cancer. Since she had one of her breasts removed, she can no longer afford her treatment and now also suffers from chronic pain in her arm.
I was told I needed more chemotherapy. They tell me that it costs 500,000 CFA francs a session, but I need 6 sessions. We can't afford to carry on the treatment.
With treatment costs of 4,500 euros, this woman went into debt to finance her operation. Her husband is also ill, making it twice as hard to meet their daily needs. An association occasionally brings her basic necessities.
It's an injustice what they're going through. It's social injustice. What they're going through is difficult to describe. And often all we can do is look at these women until we're told that they're dead.
In Togo, 20% of cancer patients cannot complete their treatment. The new public health insurance system put in place last year doesn't cover all cancer medication, nor do private insurance companies. This man's wife has been undergoing treatment for breast cancer since September. After her mastectomy, she's now having her first chemotherapy session.
It's really difficult, especially since it's extremely expensive. Unfortunately, we don't have private health insurance that can reimburse us.
To try and bring down the cost of treatment, civil society organisations supporting cancer patients are pleading for the Public Health Service to subsidise radiotherapy. Today, access to the latest medical equipment is only available in the private sector.
We are sometimes forced to treat patients at lower prices. However, with these social lower prices, we are making a loss.
The WHO estimates that cancer cases will continue to increase in sub-Saharan Africa due to insufficient resources devoted to their prevention. According to the UN Health Organization, almost half of all breast cancers could be prevented with early diagnosis and adequate treatment. In Togo, there's still no dedicated budget to fight cancer, even though almost 70% of patients die from it.
In other news, the World Health Organization says there are now 60 confirmed Ebola cases in Uganda and 20 probable cases as well. The death toll has now risen to 44. In a briefing this Wednesday, the WHO said 8 of those new cases have no known links to other patients, raising concerns about the spread of the disease. Now, the outbreak was detected last month, and existing vaccines do not work against this strain. However, experimental vaccines developed at Oxford University are being sent to Uganda. They're expected to arrive in 2 weeks for a rapid vaccine trial that would potentially involve tens of thousands of people. Now, 5 defendants accused of involvement in the murder of the Italian ambassador to DR Congo requested bail at a court hearing in Kinshasa today. Luca Atanasio was one of 3 people killed in February 2021 when the UN convoy they were travelling in was ambushed. Police have described the attack as a kidnap gone wrong. The trial continues. Next, we head to southern Madagascar, which is being gripped by drought. The dry weather there has devastated farming communities and left over 1 million people in extreme hunger. Lauren Bersticker reports on the situation in the Anossi region, where there's barely been any rain for the past 3 years.
Walking for hours in the crushing heat, these villagers carry their containers all the way to the Mandrare River, the last one in the area where water still flows. It's become a daily and necessary pilgrimage for residents of Anossi, a southern Madagascar region which has barely seen a drop of rain in the past 3 years.
How you can survive and improve your life if you spend 4 hours a day, 8 hours a day just collecting water.
The village of Manintsevo used to be surrounded by large maize and cassava fields. But the soil has since dried up, and without any wells or running water nearby, growing crops has become almost impossible. Florine Azefotsi is one of the rare locals still working in the arid fields, but she's now too old to fetch water herself and can barely afford to buy it.
Water is too expensive, but I have to buy it because the source is far away. It's too far. After 2 hours walking, I'm already exhausted.
Southern Madagascar has been ravaged by years of consecutive droughts, decimating harvests and pushing tens of thousands of people into starvation. The UN warned last year of an impending famine caused by climate change in a country where 75% of the population already lives in extreme poverty.
Well, staying with news from Madagascar, President Ange Rajoelina has fired his foreign minister this Wednesday. Media in Madagascar are reporting that his exit was triggered by the country's vote at the UN last week to condemn Russia's annexation of Ukrainian territory. Until last Wednesday, Madagascar had followed a non-aligned position on the war in Ukraine, rejecting pressure from the United States and Europe to criticize the Russian invasion. Now this evening, France 24 correspondent Clement di Roma received the Daphne Caruana Galizia Prize for his work on Russia's soft power in the Central African Republic. He won jointly with Carol Valade from our sister radio station RFI, and their documentary is called Central Africa, Russia's Influence. It was first broadcast here on France 24 back in September. Here's an extract of their award-winning film.
Many people in Bangui feel that France, their former colonizer, has abandoned them. A fertile soil to plant new ideas. Financed by the Russians and the government, Tresor and his friends rally in support of Moscow.
Today's youth has changed. We're changing things. There's always rebels inland. But in the past 3 months, thanks to Russia, there's an improvement. It's up to the youth to take the lead today.
The pro-Russian speech is well calculated. He carries a Russian flag instead of a French one.
Look at our history. Russia never colonized Africa. We're not against France, but against her harmful policies.
How many years with France? Look at us. How many coups? How many mutinies? How many presidents have we lost? Today, we've been with the Russians for some time. We have good results, and that has driven me to support Russia. We want our well-being, right? To move freely. Today we're safe. Children go to school, study, and we can see that. We wave the Russian flag to say thank you to Russia and Vladimir Putin.
Well, those are our top stories on Eye on Africa this evening. Thanks for watching, and do stay with us. The World News continues very shortly here on France 24.
Somalia is facing a dramatic climate emergency and is calling for help. Though no stranger to droughts, the country is agonizing. Scorched, arid farmland, herds depleted, and increasingly scarce food supplies. The threat of famine has never been so close.
He's a kind of dehydration. Even he's also weakness. He can't even cry normally.
With hardly any help from the government, NGOs are struggling to rescue the salvageable.
L'urgence aujourd'hui, elle est climatique, mais elle est aussi financière.
Don't miss Reporters in Somalia on France 24 and France24.com.
War has once more reared its head in Europe, recalling the darkest hours of our history.
Kiev is still about 30 kilometers away.
France 24 is providing constant coverage of events in Ukraine. Our teams on the ground and in the studio will keep you informed of all the latest developments.
They're collecting 400 meters of
Stay informed, stay aware.
Liberté, égalité, actualité.